start off with a roll call.
Certainly. Norfolk County, Joe Cazzola.
Present.
Ryan Hanel.
Present.
Patrice Delamuta.
Here.
Margaret Wilson.
Here.
David Simmons.
Present.
Fulton County, Allison Martin.
Here.
Zach Farquhar.
Here.
Jim McCready.
Here.
Mark Souza.
Here.
Beth Whitman Putnam.
Present.
Hamilton County, Joyce Belidi is excused. Philip Belidi present. Kenneth Kirk.
Here.
Davis Warner.
Here.
Gary Wicks.
Here.
Montgomery County, Thomas Pasquarelli.
Here.
Michael Swartz.
Here.
Trish Sanders.
Here.
Tony Agresta.
Here.
Otsego County, Sidney Chase.
Here.
Beth McGowan.
Here.
Nick Brent.
Here.
Tim Foster.
Here.
Richard Kirschman.
Here.
Schoharie County, Ed Brandt.
Here.
Ed Hillenbrand.
Here.
Dr. Luz.
Here.
Benjamin Laus.
Here.
Peter Nichols here. Okay. Mark Zeke is excused. Lou Jones is excused. Dr. Markowitz.
Here.
We have a full house, sir.
All right. Everyone should have received the minutes from December 19th meeting. Any additions, corrections? If not, I'll take a motion to approve.
Make a motion.
Who's done?
Joe Cazzola.
Second?
I'm seconded. Oh, Ben. Gotcha.
Side by side.
Gotcha.
All in favor?
All right.
Opposed?
I can do that now. I've been advised by Mark Souza that there are certain typos in our transcript of our December 19th meeting. The transcript was sent to all members and all members of the REMAC. And I'll just read this into the record, for the record. This refers now to the December 19th, 2019 official transcript of the meeting. Page 9, line 25, should read Mr. Hillenbrand, not Mr. Pasquarelli. Page 10, lines 6, 13, and 17 should read Mr. Hillenbrand, not Mr. Pasquarelli. Page 12, line 5 should read Mr. Hillenbrand, not Mr. Pasquarelli. Page 18, lines 23 and 25 should be JVAC, that's J-A-V-A-C, not GAVAC, G-A-V-A-C. Page 20, line 14 should be JVAC, not GAVAC. Page 21, line 11 and 23 should be JVAC, not GAVAC. And page 22, line 17 should be JVAC, not GAVAC. I read those into the record for the sake of the record. Thank you.
And that wasn't me. I wasn't at that meeting.
Okay.
Introduction of guests.
And our guests today, we have Kathy Simons from Wells. Lead the pack because I left you out last time inadvertently. And we have Bill Beavers from AMR, Steve Anderson from Air Methods. Derek Foman still here?
Derek is here.
Derek Foman from GAVAC. That's GAVAC with a G. We have Karen Taddeo, Esquire, is with us. Chief Bruce Hebra from the Johnstown Fire Department, welcome, and Steve Santa Maria from the Office of Emergency Management of Fulton County. Did I leave anyone out inadvertently? Jill Dunham.
Jill Dunham. I mean, come
Kathy,
on.
if it isn't Kathy, it's Jill. What can I tell you?
The best.
Joe Farrell.
Oh, and Joe Farrell. Geez, I am very sorry. Eventually we'll get it. Eventually we'll get it. If I do it long enough, I guess eventually we'll get it right. Welcome one and all to our guests.
All right, correspondence. I know Phil had sent an email out with all of the correspondence. If there's any questions or concerns, certainly feel free to reach out. Chairman's report, I don't have one for today, so we'll move right on to the secretary's report.
All righty. I have an important announcement. The federal mileage reimbursement rate for 2020 is set at 57.5 cents a mile, which is a reduction of 1/2 cent from the 2019 rate. Okay. Notice I put that first. The Hardwick Fire Department Emergency Squad has submitted a 5136 requesting approval for upgrade to NEMSIS 3.4. I would like to make a motion that we accept that and approve it and notify the state of this.
Second? Any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstaining?
The Skenevis, Maryland Emergency Services has sent us a 5136 requesting approval for NEMSIS upgrade to version 3.4. I'd like to make a motion that we approve that also.
Second? discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Carried.
We've been advised of an AED use by the Delaware County Sheriff's Department on December 31st. The patient was a 50-year-old male who unfortunately did not survive. On January 1st, we received an email from Steve Kroll at Semsco that congressional funding for the Siren Act has been approved in the amount of $5 million. The act authorizes a grant process for rural EMS agencies. I notified all of our members of this with this information. Peter Brody at the Department of Health has requested each region to name a certified provider not employed by a program agency or REMSCO whose duties would be to provide feedback on the upcoming schematron changes. That's part of the EPCR system. And I would ask if any of the members would be interested in serving in that capacity for this region.
Don't raise your hands at once. Can we volunteer somebody, Beth?
So Beth had already been asked, actually, and I do have to decline due to some work obligations.
You sure?
Positive.
Make a motion.
Well, I'll ask everybody just to think about it if you would, and I'll notify Peter
So-
that we're in the process.
Because I did ask about it a little bit, so I was trying to understand if it was something I could do, and it would be going over the schematron and involve some conference calls as well. I'm trying to find an email from Peter, because I did ask. About it, because I wanted to, I just can't. Review of the proposed changes for 3.5 weeks, 2 planned conference calls, 1 at the start, 1 at the conclusion. And that was about it.
Okay, we'll revisit this next month. We did not have a program agency director's conference call with the Department of Health this month. It was not scheduled. I asked about it, and my inquiry about it was not returned, so, but we definitely didn't have it.
I believe they met the night before CMAC Semsco in Troy.
I believe you're correct. Okay. And we have no notice of enforcement action received this month. And that's all I have for the Secretary's report, sir.
All right. Treasurer's report.
Treasurer's report. On January 2nd, we sent to the Department of Health vouchers and supporting documentation as follows. For the period from October 1st through December 31st. For the program agency contract, $45,179.60. And for the council contract, $9,054.33. We also respectfully requested that payment for these vouchers be timelier than the previous quarter. The previous quarter, we submitted the vouchers on October 2nd and received payment on December 12th and 13th, respectively. So on January 14th, 2 days ago, we received inquiries from Lynn Ferrugia of the Department of Health about the recently submitted program agency voucher, to which we responded the same day. And this morning, I received another inquiry about it. The Department of Health now is apparently questioning every single quarterly submission, and since there are quite a few of them, they get backed up. Water report. A printed report of the cash flow and balance sheet was distributed to all members. Tom and Jack and Sid received detailed cash flow, balance sheets, and register reports, plus copies of canceled checks as per the review arrangements agreed on to meet our audit standards. And they have agreed that?
Everything is found to be accurate and complete.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Can I have a motion to accept the treasurer's report? So moved. Ed?
I'm sorry, for a second.
Any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining?
I'm sorry, I said I automatically. I am standing as a staff member, as I always do.
All right, committee reports. Nothing for regional program, right?
Okay, nothing.
Training?
Okay, as of right now, the most cogent element of the training committee's report, I feel, would be the report on the protocol rollouts, protocol updates. And as of right now, 60 agencies in our region have reported they have completed the rollouts, and have viewed, all of their members have reviewed the video on patella reduction. That's 60 out of 106. And I am informed that this is approximately average, consonant with the rest of the state, about 3/4. A little less in our case.
Policy Committee,
Nothing.
Transportation and Standards.
Transportation and standards. We have an application from the New York Safety Tract located in Davenport, New York, for a certificate of need. On December the 18th, we received the CON application. Copies of the application were sent to all AAREMS members on that date electronically by secure transfer. And I personally have found the report to be quite thorough and complete. And we are now in a situation where we should move on the completeness or incompleteness of this report, request the state to issue fitness and competency rulings, and go ahead with scheduling a public hearing on the matter. So I would like to move that the report be considered, the CON application, pardon me, be considered complete, and that we ask the state for a fitness and competency ruling.
Do I have a second? Second.
I'm sorry, who seconded?
Any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Carried.
The Stamford Joint Fire District has also submitted an application for a certificate of need. On December the 18th, they sent us a redacted copy of their application. They have been operating under a municipal CON, which is due to expire in March of this year, and they delivered an unredacted hard copy at our December meeting. A redacted copy was sent to all members for completeness review on December 20th by secure transfer. The state has also been supplied with an unredacted copy, and securely. And I would like to make a motion that we consider that complete and petition the state for fitness and competency ruling so that we may proceed with scheduling a public hearing. I'll make that in the form of a motion.
Second?
Second.
Okay.
Any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
I'll abstain. I abstain as medical director.
I'm sorry, who do we have abstaining?
Dr. Markowitz?
And Ryan.
We have an application from the Treadwell Fire Department Emergency Squad for expansion of territory. They wish to expand their primary operating territory to include the town of Franklin in Delaware County. Upon initial review, we found there were several omissions in this application, and the agency head was contacted about this, and they returned an application. We received back an application on December 20th. A redacted copy was sent to all the members. Upon review, I personally find that the application is still incomplete because there is no notation in it of a letter sent out by the applicants to agencies in their area asking for support or for comment. And that is a necessary part according to policy 0606. That's a necessary component of the CON process. So I would like to notify the applicant through the gentleman who applied in the first place. I'd like to notify the applicant, which is the Fire Department Emergency Squad and their Fire Commission, to expand the application to include the missing elements. I don't believe that needs to be made in the form of a motion, unless there's some comment or
And I agree that it was not complete. All right.
I have nothing further with transportation and standards unless some other member does.
State Council report. Where do we want to start? I didn't get a written report done only because State Council was Tuesday and Wednesday, and I had an advisory board meeting last night. So as soon as I get it typed up, it'll be sent out along with a survey that was pretty gloom and doom for the EMS system that was done by State Council with help of Haney's to get that out. I will email a PDF version out to Phil to get out, but if anybody does want to see it today, there's a couple copies floating around. Beth, Steve, I think I have a paper copy.
I'll
I'm
pass
just
it
gonna review my
around.
notes here real quick. So under training and education, you know, the Bureau is continuing to add staff. I think now they've renamed every position in the Bureau, and pretty much everybody's a chief. I think you walk in the Bureau and
Hi,
it's
Chief.
just like, hi, chief. So everybody's a chief now in the Bureau. It's just a matter of whether you're a section chief, unit chief, but you know, they're working on getting their staffing up. Phil, I believe, sent out the links to the new forms, the CME forms.
Be aware there is a mistake on the paramedic form. At the very end of the core hours for special populations and operations, they flip-flop the hours.
But those forms are going to be supposedly on the website within the next 14 days. I would imagine it would be the corrected form.
They're already up.
They-
They're up there yesterday.
Oh, okay. Faster than we thought. Course sponsors, beware, there's gonna be some changes coming with course sponsorships. As far as when paperwork needs to be in with computer-based testing and everything that's going on, we're gonna get out of the mindset of documenting test dates and look at more of end-of-course dates. Paperwork is gonna have to be submitted, and it will be electronically submitted 2 weeks prior to the end of the course. The reasons for that is everybody is going to be, you're going to need to have an email address in your course memorandum for every student. With computer-based testing, they need to get these people registered in the system so that they can send those emails out and have that testing ready when, you know, the end of course comes through. Paramedic testing, effective January, as we know, the paramedic tests have been canceled for the last 2 months. There was some provisions with the National Registry as far as getting certified, but that is supposed to be eliminated on January 20th, and computer-based testing in New York State will be required for all paramedic courses. Shortly thereafter, the rest of the courses are going to roll out with computer-based testing and paper testing, but that paper testing will go away. On-site scoring is also going away with that. There are 29 or 30 computer sites around the state in which you're able to take the test. That information will all be sent to the students via email with that ticket, I guess, to go ahead and take that test. The benefit to computer-based testing is it will actually print out a form on a special paper with your photo, and you can practice literally that day. As soon as you walk out of the test, you're an EMT. Obviously, if you're taking a paramedic test, you need to apply to the region for credentialing. But it gives you the option to practice, as opposed to the last time it was just a sheet of paper in which you still had to wait for your card. Some cautions with the computer-based testing. Apparently there's some tricks to it. You just need to be careful and make sure you answer all the questions and not skip questions or hit the wrong answers. They say it's very sensitive, but that's more to come. There's also, on the Bureau website, there's an issues, I forgot what they called it, but there's a sheet that can be submitted to the Bureau. If you have issues with anything, don't assume the Bureau knows that there's problems with something, whether it's training, whether it's forms, whether it's just testing. Find the form and you can go ahead and complete it and send it to the Bureau, and they will look into that. We're getting closer to having some regional faculty. Hopefully, they're working on job descriptions and qualifications in which the TAG and committee had approved, and they forwarded it to the Bureau or are forwarding it to the Bureau. Policy statement 2001 has been updated on the website. That has to do with paramedic proctor fees and includes CME reimbursement for the CFR refresher.
It's the educational funding policy.
as I said, there's a big push that everything now is gonna be going electronic, and they're gonna continue to push forward on that. EMS tour, May 17th. Last year, 100 agencies participated. The Bureau is hoping this year to get 200 agencies to get out in their community and, go to the Walmart or go to the Home Depot and open up your doors and show them what EMS is about and try to educate the public. Education materials will be on the website, hopefully shortly.
Mutual aid policy will be updated and out in February.
Yep. Vital Signs, coming October 2020, is going to be in Saratoga Springs this year, so it should be relatively close for most of us, and most of us should be able to attend without any long travels or hotel rooms.
They're also going to do a one-day trauma-free conference. And the other thing that was interesting as part of the trauma report is that the state is going to start tracking patients that arrive at non-trauma center hospital, trauma patients that arrive at non-trauma center hospitals, and look at why they are arriving at non-trauma centers as opposed to being taken on to a trauma center, and look at the circumstances around it and see if there's things that can be mitigated.
I believe Phil sent out in the emergency regulation changes.
Yes.
All of the members, that had to do mainly with computer-based testing and certifications that had to be taken care of in order to make that go live. We also had a pretty interesting presentation. It was like a code green presentation from a bunch of people from around not only the state, but the executive director of a certain agency came out from Washington State to talk about responder suicides and mental health. And it is a pretty increasing issue with our responders, and we're seeing more and more suicides. So we'll get some information out and contact information out to these people. So if it's something that you want to look into as a county, as a region, it was pretty interesting. And when we started listening to some of the statistics around, I mean, there's some regions that had, suicides, 3 in 90 days or something like that. And it was pretty staggering of EMS providers, as well as, with the opioid crisis, the abuse of drugs and alcohol in providers. So it was a pretty interesting conversation.
So they've created a technical advisory group we react to these things, we don't try to get ahead of them. And they would like to get together some best practices and policies and resources so that if we see someone who is in trouble, how do we keep our patient safe, keep that person safe, keep them not alienated from their EMS family. That seemed to, the story we heard, someone was put on administrative leave, overdosed one day, spent the night in the ICU, and the next day put a bullet in their chest because they felt alienated from their EMS family. And how can we help people without alienating them and keeping them in the fold and not end up with a suicide to deal with? So trying to get ahead of it instead of being reactionary to it.
And then the last thing I have is we love state council so much we are actually going to 4 times a year now instead of 3 to hopefully get some more stuff done. I will tell you there is a huge push to start changing regulation in the Bureau and bring it more into the era in which we are instead of the 1970s. And some of the things that they're looking at is policy statements and things like that. And when we started looking at, they started looking at things like 1401 and all that, they found that certain policy statements actually didn't agree with regulation. So there's a lot of things that are coming down, and the state council is looking to be more productive as well as the Bureau. So we're going to be actually meeting 4 times a year, and they actually moved the site for as long as I can remember. I don't know how long they've been in Troy, but they're moving it to downtown Albany,
Back to downtown Albany. They were there before.
starting in March, so. Anything else, Beth, that you can think of, Steve?
Yes.
Dave?
Go ahead, Dave.
Party 122, they sent that,
Yep,
the
that-
ambulance,
Party
After-
122.
after 5 years of,
Yeah, the safety committee spent 5 years redoing this regulation on ambulance construction. And it finally was finished and completed on Tuesday and went to the council for approval on Wednesday, which it approved. So once all of this stuff comes into regulation, that'll be out and about. It's nothing really crazy than what we've seen. Is it gonna add cost to ambulances? Probably a little bit. We've tried to scale that back as much as we possibly could so it didn't have such an impact on agencies. The safety committee has also, I guess, employed or received volunteer work from a leading crash expert and EVOC expert that is known throughout the country to rewrite the emergency vehicle operation policy as well. So that stuff is coming down the pike. Dave, anything else you think of?
there's another tag that reported as well that he completed. In fact, the gentleman who took on the tag of the mental health. What was that?
Yeah, that was the.
So it was the
that
survey
was
on the true cost of EMT and paramedic training?
Yeah,
Or-
yeah, that report that's going around, that's
Oh,
right.
that's what it
that
was.
called.
Okay.
That's right, that was the other one, that's the other tag. There's a couple copies of that floating around here, I think we're gonna send it out, it's quite interesting, some of the, as you say, gloom and doom numbers in there.
And one of the things, there was another piece of legislation that came out recently that it was to appoint a committee to look at rural EMS. And it had everybody but ambulance providers in the legislation, saying you get 2 from here, 2 from here, 2 from here. It didn't have Department of Health, Bureau of EMS, and it didn't have any EMS people. So fortunately, someone got a hold of the legislator that.
Yeah, I can elaborate on that. So Dean Romano from Rotterdam EMS and I had met a couple weeks ago in regards to this, and Angelo Santa Barbara is the assemblyman that's sponsoring this bill, had got together with us about all of these different things, and I think you did somebody sent out a copy of the bill.
I sent
And
that.
as soon as I got a copy of the bill, I immediately called Dean and I said, have you looked at who's on this committee? And Dean and Angelo Santa Barbara, being from Rotterdam, have a relationship, and we got in touch with Angelo Santa Barbara and we actually influenced him to change the makeup of what is going to, and who is going to participate, due to the fact that there were no EMS providers or anybody that had anything to do with EMS at all. It was all political appointments by either the Senate Assembly or the governor. And it made absolutely no sense. So we have persuaded Angelo into changing the makeup of that, and we're just waiting for the revised copy of who is actually going to participate.
I'll forward
And the
that to
lesson
everyone.
in that is every single one of us should be building relationships with our legislators so that we can educate them about how EMS functions, because they don't know. And we can't advance ambulance service as an industry without the legislators, and they are totally in the dark about what we do and how we do it.
Yeah, it's a state council report. Like I said, as soon as what's that?
EMS Memorial.
I don't have that date.
May 19th.
May 19th
Yeah.
is the EMS memorial.
I thought you said that one, sorry.
As soon as I get it typed up, I will get it to everybody. The Haney's report I'll get out to you guys this afternoon. REMAC.
Well, Bovina EMS reported the BLS Narcan use, which is information that was given to the REMAC. West Edmonton First Responders complete agency recertification was completed, And that was information only. West Edmonton First Responders also requested approval of Dr. Brian Barlow as a new service medical director. And I knew Brian, and everybody agreed that he would be a good director there. Update on the BLS First Responders, Joe Farrell, as well as agency compliance. We're doing a good job there. We've discussed medications that were in shortage, and there was only one that was atropine. Otherwise, everybody seems to be doing good finding their drugs. And then we discussed again the protocol updates and where we're headed to get all the agencies notified that are behind the times and get them back up to speed and online. You'll look, we're gonna forward on to Phil the formulary for the drugs, including the Tylenol and the ibuprofen that was approved at the last meeting, so we can have that online on AAREMS. And we're gonna continue to work on the stroke idea protocols and where we're gonna head with that. Also, Stanford BLS informed us that CPAP and 12 lead, they're up and online, and I'd like to encourage everybody to continue. Get those CPAPs BLS as well as the 12 lead BLS to all the agencies. That's it, sir.
All right, thank you. County reports. Delaware.
So Delaware County again is going to do their annual teaching day. We're looking at a May date for that, probably the Saturday before Mother's Day. It's kind of been where we're landing on that. I'll get more information out. We've had quite a bit of out-of-county participation in the past. We're hoping to get more people to come this year, and LifeNet is going to partner with us this year on that. We've got an EMT refresher course that's starting as far as classes, and we're just finishing up our EMT class.
At Seago.
At Seago, we just tested out our practical skills on the Cooperstown refresher class. They actually take their New York State written this evening. And then Worcester is in April, and Suco in May.
Could everyone just speak up a little louder so I could pick up your voices? Thank you.
Schoharie.
Status quo.
Montgomery.
Nothing.
The only thing I do, now that we're talking about EMT courses, we are planning on, we've applied for an EMT original and an EMT refresher course to be held. It's probably going to get moved to Fulton County. We haven't made a final decision on the location of that, but it'll either be in Montgomery or Fulton County, starting at the end of February. Fulton County.
Nothing new.
Hamilton County.
We are going to be holding a first responder course, probably held in Speculator, and we're hoping that'll start in February. We don't have the date, so we haven't applied for it yet. We had an EMT class test out in May of last year, and as soon as we got the grades, I sent in the paperwork. We still have not received payment. There's numerous emails and phone calls to the state, and it's like over $5,000 that we could use.
Have you got a response from the state?
Supposedly there was an error that somebody made down there, so then it was going to be sent over to whoever writes the checks. That was like in November.
So the bright side to this is I had just received payment from a course that I offered in the beginning of 2017. So there is a light at the end of the tunnel. After working with the Bureau for 2 years, I finally received the whole whopping $1,700 that they owed.
So in other words, persevere.
No, it was a class we actually taught, but it took 2 years to get the problem resolved.
You still got a little time. Yeah.
Any old business? Any new business? Beth?
As many of you know, I attend the United New York Ambulance Network as one of the members, and I do not know how many people are aware of this, but if you are an agency that collects money from Medicare, CMS, there is a ground ambulance cost data collection push from the CMS. The assumption is from CMS that we are already overpaid for providing ambulance services. And they are going to do a cost data collection survey of every single agency in the United States that receives Medicare payments. It has started. In the AAREMS region, the 160 agencies in New York State were selected for this. It's going to go over 4 years, so they'll have roughly 160 agencies for every 4 years getting data. In AAREMS, there are 3 agencies that have been selected for this round of data collection: Racket Lake, Ambulance Service of Fulton County, and JVAC.
Some accurate numbers there.
Racket Lake does about 15 calls a year.
So it ought to be easy for them. But no, the thing is, it's not just about your billing. It's about what do you pay your providers? How do you benefit? What benefits do they receive? What are your, unit hours? What are your man hours? It's not just about the billing. It's about operations. So it's pretty big and it's pretty exhaustive. You're not going to hand it to your accountant to take care of. You're not going to hand it to your billing company to take care of. This is going to take operational input. But every single agency is going to get this in the next 3 years.
That bills, right?
That bills.
Yeah,
That bills. Thank you. So Onion, Northeast Rescue Vehicles, Multi-Med, and the American Ambulance Association are putting on a seminar in New York, January 24th, 9 to 4 in Liverpool. And everyone who would like to attend is invited. The cost is $125 per person.
I believe I sent a flyer out.
You did send the flyer around. But this is, we need, as an industry, everyone to participate in this so that we can show we're not being overpaid. We all know we aren't being overpaid for those of us that bill. We know that our costs have continued to spiral, and this is a way to show the government that we truly need more reimbursement. And we all know that most of our woes, getting enough people, getting enough, for salaries, ambulances and stuff, all kind of keys off of what we're reimbursed. So I encourage anybody who's billing and receives Medicare funding to please at least check this out. There's an entire website devoted to this on the CMS.gov, I believe, website. If you type in Medicare Ground Ambulance Data Collection System, there's a whole page that deals with this, explains it. And then reference guides, frequently asked questions, and the list of everybody that's supposed to be participating this year. If you do not participate, when it is your turn, you will be penalized. You will lose 10% of your CMS reimbursement. So it's not just another, okay, we're going to ignore this. They have the ability to apply penalty. So,
the other part I just want to add is it is important to know what you need to report. I know we stress this. Please, just because you're a small agency, don't just write numbers down. And that's where these training seminars are very important when it comes to this, because it's not only your agency that gets affected, it's everybody that is getting affected. So if you don't know what costs to put into this, then you're going to have inaccurate numbers. And inaccuracies are going to lead to change in payments, whether it's for the better, for the worse, I don't know. But you need to really know what needs to go into that.
and I have a few more of the flyers if anybody would like some. So.
Thank you, Beth.
Dave, you had new business?
Yeah, I had just a couple of things under, that reflect a couple of things from the state council and the CMAC. One was that there's a lot of confusion with the new CME program. I'm sure there's a lot of people, we just had a conversation here earlier today about some of the policies and procedures. I know one question that I brought up was about the aspect of by 2022, everybody having, being on a platform. And we'll come to find out, the rest of that story is that the state's gonna come out with a platform at the state's cost. Of course, it's not mentioned in that document, but Ryan mentioned that, and that might be pushed back if they don't have that platform at that time. But there's a number of other things that have to go on, and maybe we could hear on our own level, especially for the more reporting end of it, that the local entity, as far as the reporting of the processes of the quarterly reports that have to be, I mean, there's a lot of, if anybody has read through those, how many pages of that document, there are a lot of changes. And everybody should be aware of all those changes, and I just figure, well, this is just an update and not read it, because there's a lot more responsibility put on the CME coordinator for the agency, to the point where, as the earlier conversation we had here, there are some agencies that are actually hiring somebody to do that work, so they comply with all these changes, so.
There's a lot of gray areas in it, but I think, like, you know, there's a group of us getting together next week after we read it, rather than every single agency calling Gene Myers and saying, hey,
Yeah.
you know, what about this, this, and this? I think if people get together with your agencies around you and come up with, you know, a frequently asked questions.
And that's what I was thinking, if we could, within our agencies here,
Yeah, I mean,
have a collection point for those questions,
I
so they
agree
can be
with
filtered
that.
out and sent on in. We might stand better than Gene getting hammered with
is that
150,
something
300
we can do,
questions.
Phil, as, you know, field them into Phil, and
Sure.
then we can shoot them on
Yeah.
to Gene?
Absolutely.
And,
Yeah, I
and
think
then
maybe
the
Phil could
training
send out
committee.
something to all the agencies out there that,
I agree.
for questions to come in, so we have a collection
Absolutely. If you'll
point.
funnel me the questions, I'll endeavor to get the answers and funnel them back to you.
Exactly. That's what I was gonna say, we get maybe the words out in the minutes, or maybe just a separate,
Or the training
Hey.
committee meets next month,
Right.
so, you know, I mean, like,
exactly. So.
yeah.
The other thing that came up that, to mention is, there was in one of the regions, there was a disciplinary action against a provider by the local REMAC. Was that brought up at
Yes,
this
we
meeting?
just brought it up.
Agreement.
Oh, this- well, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Just so that everybody's aware of that, it definitely floored a few people up at that meeting up in Albany the past couple of days. Then the third thing, on a good note, I just want to, as a reminder, is the FASA EMS seminar at the New York State Fire Academy is February 29th, a good day for leap year, 29th and March 1st, with a number of national known speakers, and as well as pre-conference on the 28th. Other than that, that's all. I just wanted to mention those couple things.
Thank you, Dave, very
Yeah,
much.
you are.
Yeah, I'm sorry, this was probably old business, but we kind of moved before I reacted, so I apologize and beg the indulgence. I see our attorneys here. Could we get an update, and this might require an executive session, as to what's going on, where we're at? I don't know if this is up to you
Oh, it
folks.
doesn't need an executive session, we're still waiting, all the papers went in, we had a judge in Fulton County, who was doing very well, but there was an election in the interim, and the new judge, last name is Slezak.
Rebecca Slezak.
Rebecca Slezak is a new judge that was just elected, so our paperwork, our case got switched to her on January 2nd. We're just waiting.
So we don't have a date yet?
No, we have nothing back yet.
Okay.
It got transferred because of the election.
There was four Supreme Court judges in this area that were elected. So we were bound to get a new one.
Yeah, and our judge before was actually a loner. He was an interim judge, so once they had an election, it had to go through.
I did have a question. I know case law was cited. Were they federal or state cases?
All of the papers are public. The case law where?
That Hannigan gave why they were saying that this is why it should be decided in one way or the other.
Well, there's 3 different cases he's got out there. You understand that. He's sued you guys 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
Case law primarily is New York State cases. There was almost no case law cited.
Okay.
This is what's called the case of first impression on a lot of things. We have statutes, but there's no case law. The only case law in New York on powers of the regional council and CONs and all that is a case called, is the old MOVAC case, which predates the 92 amendments, 93 amendments. There's no case law out there.
Okay, so when he was saying this, he wasn't talking about any federal case laws or anything, federal cases? Because there was a piece by John Stossel in November that I came across on YouTube where there were 14 federal CON cases, and I'm like, is this what we're talking about? And I wasn't sure.
I think you should reread whatever Stossel's written. I don't think he's talking about CONs as being no.
Well, I reached out to the thing, and he's like, what are you talking about? And of course, I'm nobody, so, you know,
Yeah,
they're not
because-
gonna respond.
No.
And we know how the reporters spin things to get their vote. But he said, well, this went up to the Supreme Court, and it was on ambulances. It's like, well, then what's going on?
You need to know that in New York, that public health law is primarily a state-by-state regulation.
Right, they were going under Commerce, and that was the thing, because there's Medicare funds in there. I'm not a lawyer, I don't pretend to be a lawyer, so that's why I'm asking.
No, I have no idea. There's no
Okay.
Commerce Clause things that. But remember the first thing in this case, in what we're all doing here. You are not doing a new CON here at all. You are not making determinations of public need. You are not doing any of that. I think I've said it 100 times. You are just doing whether or not a certificate is existent, whether it can be transferred. You're not granting anything new. It's a simple.
I just was looking for that since you were here, I figured I'd
Yeah.
ask, thank you.
Any other new business? There being none, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion.
Adjourning at 1:28 PM. We next meet on February the 20th.